to another episode of Unplugged. Another disappointing loss, I guess you could call it, at Geelong, as we're accustomed to. There were some flashes of good footy, but just ultimately not good enough for long enough. We are without Darren Parkin this week. He's not well, and a couple of other things going on this week. So we're lucky enough to be joined by Ollie Gill from BT Sports. He's been around the traps for a while. Triple M, special comments as well these days, doing some good things in footy media. Ollie, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for having me. Yeah, I was supposed to do special comments on St Kilda Geelong on the weekend, but I opted to go to Tassie, and I think it was probably the right call that I made in the end.
Would have been special comments on Geelong. That's probably
exactly. Exactly.
That's right. H, you were off the show this time last week as well. What did you make of the Geelong game?
First half showed a bit of confidence in the team, thinking, "Oh, we're in the match. We're showing a little bit," but yeah, second half came along and we just didn't show up. The Geelong flexed their muscle, as they should, being the top team on the ladder. And I mean, it's the sort of result we kind of probably went into the game thinking it's very likely to happen. But before the game started, we're hearing Blixar's out, Dangerfield out last minute, and we're going, okay, well, if we're ever going to beat Geelong in Geelong, tonight's the night. But as I say, they bat so deep, Geelong, that they brought in players who in other years have destroyed us. You think Menegola comes in, he's played great football against us over the years. Tui came in, he has absolutely destroyed us over the years. And you think, well, how can they be sitting there not getting a game and come in last minute? And you think, well, yeah, if only we had this sort of player that could just all of a sudden step in. And yeah, so they're such a well-drilled team. It's the sort of result you thought, yep, that's probably what should happen, looking at positions and how the teams are playing at the moment. And I mean, the first half, we kicked 7-1. You think we're keeping ourselves in it, but yeah, they just put their foot down and took off.
It was a weird old first half, wasn't it? I mean, we kicked the first one, we came out of the blocks fast, but almost as soon as we kicked that goal, it felt like, you know, we withdrew kind of back into our shells a bit. We were kind of overawed, overwhelmed, etc. And they were all over us in the rest of that first quarter. And then we kind of put it together for 15 minutes in the second quarter. We throttled them defensively. We were able to keep the ball off them. They couldn't get it past halfway. Yeah, I think we demolished them in inside 50s. Kicked 4 goals to 2 ultimately, but really it should have been 4-1. We gave away that one right on half time that kind of killed the momentum that we were never able to get back in the second half. But Ollie, how did you see the change from that first quarter into the second quarter, and I guess what happened at the break?
Mate, yeah, it's so St Kilda, isn't it? And it's one thing that we've noticed this year in particular that, and to be frank, I'm just getting really tired of seeing, is teams getting out to an unattainable lead, and then at some point in the game we show a bit of fight, and you think, mate, if this was across all 4 quarters, not only would we be in a serious chance here, we would probably be within the lead. And there was a flurry of goals at certain points, and you just think, why? And that's the biggest question mark for mine. Is it communication? Is it, and I do think it's pretty clear that we've got a communication error going on throughout the team. I think when you look at our inside 50s in particular, you can't be kicking to a Max King on a 3-on-1 when you've got 4 other players left open. So even though we were going into the forward 50, as you said, we dominated in that second quarter, the actual delivery is really poor. You know, they opt for a 30-meter kick instead of a 15 sometimes, where Geelong were doing that really, really well. And they're so clinical with their ball movement. So what changed? I don't know. But all I want to see for the rest of the year, and certainly going forwards, is not allowing teams to get a 40-point lead at any point, because it doesn't matter how good we are. We just can't get back. And, you know, we might see like a Collingwood this year in particular. They seem to have that in their DNA where they don't need to worry. But our third quarters in particular and our second halves have been really strong this year. So you look at some of those games that we have been so strong. If we hadn't let them out of the blocks early, it would have been a totally different result.
We've spoken about a couple of times, H, and I think this game kind of showed the golfing class between us and a team like Geelong, like Melbourne we saw earlier in the year. These really high quality teams. But it's not that we can't play good footy. We know we can. We've seen us do it. It happens in patches, just not good enough for long enough. And Are you able to kind of pinpoint where that's come from? Because in the first half of the season, I know that there were still elements of that, but we were certainly able to put it together for a half a game, 3 quarters potentially, maybe not 4 quarters of good quality football, but certainly longer in a game than we have almost since the bye. Are you able to kind of pinpoint what's changed?
It feels like our game plan kicks in at some point, and it starts working how we want it to work. But then the opposition looks and goes, "Okay, this is what we'll do to stop it," and then all of a sudden just stops it, and we're done. And it doesn't come back. I don't know whether it's too easy to read or it's too, I don't know, it's not sustainable for long enough in a match for it to be effective. So is there an issue with the game plan we're trying to use ourselves? Are we trying to do something that just does not work? And as I said, we get found out very easily sometimes, and teams will pile goals onto us, and nothing seems to change. I don't know whether the game plan we've had at the start of the year, where we're really attacking, all of a sudden we can't sustain that attacking ability, and we're not switching on defensively when we haven't got the ball. So there's an issue somewhere in I guess, how the team sets up. And I think the other point of it is we've talked about all year saying that our players seem to be a step behind. We give these kicks, easy kicks. Teams just pick us apart, kick by kick, and we just don't seem to get up and take it on and defend. But as soon as we get the ball, we're looking and we've got nothing to kick to. So we have to kick it long. We've got to kick it the back, kicking on 3 players. We don't seem to have that space that a lot of other teams do. But for a 15, 20-minute period, we've got players everywhere. And then it disappears again. So it seems like it can work, but it doesn't seem to work for a whole match. Yeah. We've got to find something that we can use over 4 quarters, because not going to be many games winning 1 quarter of footy.
That's it, Nick. That actually goes back to my biggest fear at the moment. Is I am pretty confident that it's not necessary. Say, I'd like to think it's not our game plan. I'm really worried that it's the cohesion of the group, which is such a far bigger issue, because it suggests that it doesn't matter who you bring in. It could be Alistair Clarkson. It could be the best in the business. But if the cohesion amongst this group of boys just doesn't work, we've got such bigger issues on our hands. Because I mentioned a Collingwood, you look at that team now, they work for each other. We saw the Langdon tackle in, what was it, the first quarter? 4 players jumped on him. I don't remember last time I saw a St Kilda team tackle like that. I just don't. And that's my biggest fear. And we can speculate all we like, and I'm hoping that you're right. It just seems to be a game plan that Ratton's not quite worked out, and we'll work on it in the off season and come back stronger. But I'm just really terrified that this just isn't the group, and there's not much you can do about that.
Yeah, it could be something between what we're saying. It could be the game plan, but it could be the groups, like the forward, the mid, the back, that the plan isn't working between them. Because we've seen our back line, they all seem to work together.
Totally.
The midfield when we've seen Hannah's come back against Hawthorn, all of a sudden it clicked. They're all knowing what they're doing. They're all going, okay, yep, this is how we want to play. The forward line, it is struggling a bit, but yeah, there could be that, I guess, bit from column A, bit from column B, from what we're saying there.
It's a really interesting point, because I think in the first half of the year, we're all kind of talking about the cohesion of the group and the fact that they seem to work so well together. They're working hard for each other. We were very rarely out of a game outside of maybe that Melbourne game. And even then, there was a little glimmer in that third quarter that maybe we could come back, because we very nearly did. But we came back in that Geelong game, came back in the Richmond game, and really putting together some high quality pressure football, especially in second halves and third quarters, to really come back from deficits at halftime. I wonder if potentially what we're missing is there's probably a talent gap, right? There's probably a few key positions that we need to bring some high quality talent into the club. And I think that, better or worse, some of our draft mishaps over the last 5 or 6 years have probably left us in a bit of a hole with some of those positions, and some of the list management that we've dealt with and had to deal with, guys like Paddy who was almost forced to retire and then come back, and he's ended up at Sydney, obviously playing great footy. But we could clearly do with another intercept mark key defender that he's become at the Swans. But the other thing is that I think potentially every club needs those guys that plays their role, that knows their role. They're not out there to be a superstar. They're not out there to be a Brownlow medalist, a best and fairest, etc. But Ben Long, I think, is one of those guys that just goes out there and knows his role. He's a pressure player. He's a momentum player. You get him involved, and he keeps giving and giving and giving no matter what. I think Dan McKenzie's another one of those guys, and I think we've missed him severely. And I'm not sure that any of us could have predicted how much we'd miss him once he got injured. He obviously had the concussion, and then a kind of a series of kind of lower leg, ankles, calves, etc. over the last, I guess, month or so. But he's another one of those players that isn't out there trying to do anything special, but kind of get ball, win ball, attack, compete, contest, keep chasing, harassing, doing all that defensive stuff that teams need those guys that are willing to do the grunt work, the dirty work. And you can't have a team full of Hunter Clarks and Jack Billings and these types of guys. No offense, but they're not that in and under, tough and dirty, rough and tumble type of players. And I think we've really missed Dan McKenzie.
I tell you what, though, there are some positives about our squad when you're looking in that area. Like, I think, Dougal Howard gets the job done. Callum Wilkie, absolutely. Jack Sinclair, obviously, we've seen. There are some really positives, and I think it goes without saying that it's in our DNA sometimes as St Kilda fans to look at the negatives, but everything that's been good about this year has been really exciting about going forwards. And that's a super exciting thing that we need to remember. Winhager in particular, I'm obsessed with Nazaya. Like, some of these guys that you're like, okay, finally it feels like we're starting to get the draft right, but they seem like they do play their role. And the positives
100%.
that we can take from that far outweigh the negatives of this year, I think.
100%. And I think you see guys like Windhager and Owens and Nazaya come in, and I think we've missed Nazaya as well. I think that he kind of got dropped at an inopportune time and hasn't obviously been able to win his way back. I think that you've got to play him, and you've got to play those three really for the rest of the year. You have to. But even someone like Mitch Owens, who, on the stat sheet wasn't a huge game against Geelong, but the job that he did as that kind of defensive forward on Tom Stewart, we saw Cooper Sharman do it in that first game against Geelong earlier in the year. Mitch Owens did it again on Tom Stewart. He had 6 tackles, and it was just a really solid effort at keeping Tom Stewart from impacting the game. And we know what type of impact Tom Stewart can have for Geelong across halfback as that intercept marker and distributor across halfback and through the middle. But something like that where you see a young kid who's clearly extremely talented and offensively does all the right things. He knows how to win the ball. He's got great hands and he can kick a goal. But then to see him do that defensive pressure work on Tom Stewart was impressive, H.
Yeah. These are the guys that need the games that they've played, have a preseason, then let's get them firing first thing next year, because the skill these kids have actually got. We've picked up absolute jets, 3 of them. And they're the players we need to build around from now. We've got them. We've got Max. That's the core we need to build around. Get them. It's going to get to the point where we get them the ball and they get it to Max. They're great ball users, all 3 of them. And they're only going to improve. So it's players that we look at that we go, we can get very excited about, but we need to do them the right way. We need to get them right. We've seen too many players. I mean, what was that stat over the last ever how many years since Sam Fisher or something that we haven't recruited an all Australian.
155 players drafted.
Yeah. And how many of them have played more than so many games as well? That's the other issue we've had. So we've picked some great players here. We need to get them right. We can't just, let them sit behind and do nothing, and we get them out there, get them on the field. But they know what they have to do. They want to do it too. So let's wait for next year. Let's see how. I mean, quite often the second year can be the troublesome one. It can be seen as sometimes. You see a young kid come out and start the first year and they go really well. The second year can be a little bit of the troublesome one don't let that, I guess, influence the selection of them. Keep playing them. They've got to keep playing. So that's where we've got to go with them. Just give them the time and put the time into them, and we'll get rewarded in the long run.
Now, Ollie, you mentioned one of my biggest frustrations, I think more so in the second half of this year, but really it's been over the last couple of years, and that's our delivery inside 50. And you mentioned dropping it on the head of Max King with 3 blokes on him. Now, I'm not great at maths. Maths is not my strong point. But if there's 3 blokes on one of our blokes, then surely we have to have 3 men somewhere else on the ground. We seem to have no structure in this. And it's something that we keep coming back to almost week after week. And we get it to work for 15-minute, 20-minute patches. And Max will do something special, like something incredible that no other player in the competition can do. But then he'll be almost non-existent for the rest of the game. How do we fix that forward structure?
Well, firstly, I should say that obviously we love Max King. We love what he is right now and what he's going to be. But he's not there yet. Like, he's not actually a ready-made superstar right now. So I don't know why we insist on going to a 3-on-1. Right now, I'm just glad he's playing every game and he's looking after his knee. He's learning how to shoot from different angles and meeting other opposition players. That's the best thing. But right now, he's not a player I think that you need to go to every single time. And I don't know. I mean, it's easy for me to speculate, and obviously it would be far easier to see what Rats is actually talking about behind the scenes, but no coach in any sport, in any league would ever just say kick to one person. Like, it just wouldn't happen. Like, you'd say, yeah, he's our target man, whatever, but you need to be flexible. You need to be creative. And we've shown we've got, some seriously good goal kickers, whether it be on the ground, like Dan Butler in particular. I think, the sort of second half of the season's been fantastic. We know that Tim Memory will always be there for us. It's just about relaxing, being a little bit more mature, I think. And we speak about the Geelong game in particular. And I think that was the golf in class that you talk about. We know that they're the oldest team in the league. And with that comes experience in waiting for that other option. Don't just rushing and look for Tom Hawkins, because you've got other people that you can find. But also, I hope that they trust in their teammates. And that's something, again, that I go back to is the fear of mine, where you might see a Jack Higgins 45 meters out on an angle and go, oh, no, I'm going to kick to Max King on a 2-on-1. when you want them to have faith and trust in their teammates. So I think we need more of that.
And just something that's come up not long ago, actually, talking of young players and Max and that, the AFLPA 22 under 22 squad's been announced with, we've only got Max in there. So
beautiful.
Let's hope maybe he gets the spot, but it's a couple of tough players there. I mean, I think Norton automatically gets picked full forward. So yeah, he may get the centre half role. Who knows? But yeah, look at the names in there this year, and you think, yeah, there's some really good names in there. Like, that's that team, and that's not going to be, I guess, an easy one to break into. So yeah, it's see how he goes, whether he actually gets a nod this year or not.
There are some good kids coming through, which I think kind of highlights the fact that none of Nasiah, Windhager, or Owens have gotten that rising star nom this year that they probably deserve, or all 3 of them for I guess, individual performances, but also, I guess, the bulk of their performances over the course of the year. Hope that one of them gets a nod in the next couple of weeks for their season so far, I guess. But it does seem unfortunate that a few of those guys, when they've had their best games, have come up against guys in other clubs that have just gone one step further or had an out of the box type of game. But I guess as we wrap the Geelong game, should we get to some votes? Ollie, you mentioned off air that you didn't want to give votes, but any special mentions that you wanted to highlight?
Special mentions. That is my job. So I'd like to.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's all right. Look, whether it be from the Geelong game or going back the last couple of weeks, I'm still giving 3 points pretty much week in, week out at the moment to Dan Butler. I think that given the new contract, of course, re-signing for a couple of more years has done wonders for him and relax. But look, to be honest, I think the Geelong game, not many people deserved the points. It was a tough game to watch, wasn't it?
It was. H, who have you got?
Given one to Rowan Marshall, though, with the situation that was at hand on the night, I reckon he had the opportunity. If he'd played the way he had the 2 weeks before, he could have been in a match-winning position for us. If he dominated the 2 weeks before, and since Paddy's been out, it seems that he's really stepped up. They played a great game, gave us as much as he could on the night, but yeah, just that domination he had in the last few weeks may have been a slight difference to what the result was on the night. If we'd got more first use, if we'd just, I guess he'd taken Stanley to clean, and Stanley had a reasonable game still. But if he just completely dominated him, I think he could have been the best on ground almost. Gave 2 to Mason Wood. I reckon he really put in on the night. He really gave us a target. He really threw himself at it. He really he was there to try and win the match. It was the commentators actually gave him a real rev up there at one point. And it's probably the first time I've heard a commentator talk him up all year. And yeah, it's a great. I was sitting there watching, thinking, this is a guy we've picked up for free, basically. So he's really contributed this year. I think he should probably be finishing almost in our top 10 for the season in the best and fairest, for the effort he gives, for the basically the heart he's shown this year for us. He's a decent footballer. He is a decent footballer, and yeah, I think once we have that structure working and that, he's really going to slide in somewhere that will really be really contribute well to the team overall. And 3 to Brad Crouch, clearly best on for us. I think it was 30 touches and 11 tackles, and I think was it 30? I think
28.
No, 28 touches, 11 tackles. Most of the was it 12 contested disposals. Yeah, pretty much he put in all night, and yeah, there's a few times where he was sort of seemed like about the only one in the middle who was doing a lot. And yeah, just pushed through all night, but yeah, obviously wasn't enough. Just him in the middle doing that.
I've gone very similar. I've given some honourable mentions to Jack Steele, just another Jack Steele game. I mean, it wasn't his best by any stretch, but 20 touches, 7 tackles, 7 clearances and a goal. Rowan Marshall, like you said, 21 touches and 31 hit-outs, 7 clearances of his own. But I gave 1 vote to Jack Sinclair. I thought he was just classy. I thought he was our most classy player across the night. 23 touches, 7 intercepts, 4 score involvements, 423 meters gained at 92% disposal efficiency, when most of our other guys couldn't really get past 60% efficiency. Jack Sinclair was a beacon for, I guess, disposal and cleanliness with ball in hand. I gave 2 to Brad Crouch for all those reasons you said. 28 touches, 11 tackles and 4 clearances. It was very good again in the clinches. But I gave my 3 to Mason Wood. I think it's probably pretty rare that he's been up there in this conversation, whether it was at North or with us over the last year and a bit. But 20 touches, 10 marks, 383 meters gained, 4 intercepts, 4 inside 50s, 4 score involvements, and a goal. It was just a very, very good all-round game for Mason Wood on the wing. He was able to impact for us defensively, running and chasing, putting pressure on, offensively, delivery in the forward 50 of all the guys that delivered the ball inside 50. I thought he was our cleanest outside of Jack Sinclair, who I mentioned before. But I guess more of that offensive power from Mason Wood, which I really liked. And the fact that he was able to get involved, I guess, in the defensive half of the ground is something that we haven't seen much from him in the past, and was very impressed with Wood. And I think, like you said, H, he probably deserves to be in that top 10 BNF conversation at this point in the season.
And we've just received Parko's votes as well. So we'll quickly run. He gave 1 Marshall, 2 to Crouch, and 3 to Sinclair.
Very good. I'll add that to the tally, and next week we'll maybe do a full leaderboard next week and share where the votes are at. Our guest this week is someone who never really got it all together, unfortunately. He was a very talented youngster coming through as a top 10 draft pick for Collingwood. Spent most of his AFL career trying to get his body right. Eventually did for a couple of games. At the end of his career, our guest this week Nathan Freeman.
Upon it, Seb Ross tried to get it out. He was effective, but the who now steal, and the touch from Freezer. That's great to see. He's on the board. Johannesson couldn't take it. Freeman keeps it in play, puts it back in towards Seb Ross territory.
To get back on his left. Here's Freeman. Let's see the penetration in this kick. Goes to the top of the square, Membry direction.
Yeah, a little bit of relief. A little bit of relief for the strength and conditioning staff as well. It's obviously been a long time coming, but yeah, like I said, it's once you're playing and backing up week on week, you sort of forget about the journey. And yeah, I think I've been reminded of that this week. And now just looking forward, I'm going to just be like any other footballer, going out, backing up, and yeah, hopefully contributing to this team and playing part of a winning team.
There might not be too many players in the AFL that have only played 2 games at the senior level, but have had so many articles, so much media about that person in the history of the game. Our guest this week is Nathan Freeman. Freezer, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me.
Mate, I guess just to kick off, and we'll go through your career, but what's it like these days? Is there a sense of frustration that you could never get it right?
I suppose at the time, yeah, definitely. Like my whole career was sort of one thing after another. So just a roller coaster of emotions and frustration, and more downs and ups, obviously. But I'm sort of like nowadays, I'm pretty content. I guess I've sort of fallen on my feet after my footy career. I'm in player management now, so it's at the time, yeah, definitely frustrating. But I think I've moved on pretty quick, and I guess it's just the way footy is. Footy's pretty brutal. For every Joel Selwood that wins flags from day one, there's myself who has gone as a high draft pick and never actually got on the park or had a real crack at it. So it's just the way it goes. I'm pretty realistic about it.
So let's go back before that all started. Go back to your juniors and leading up to being drafted by initially Collingwood. But where did you play your juniors, and where did the interest from Collingwood taking you early in the draft come from?
Yeah, so I grew up in a suburb called Dingley Village in Melbourne. So I played under 9s all the way up until under 15s there. And then I was lucky enough to get a scholarship to Haileybury College. So my most of my footy was done at Haileybury and Sandy Dragons and Vic Metro from that sort of 16 to 18s year. And I guess I think my top age year, I probably, was a bit of a bolter. I had a really good season, and I think the interest sort of just grew throughout that top age year. And Collingwood obviously showed a bit of interest, and I was lucky enough to be read out by them at pick 10 at the end of 2013. So yeah, I guess I sort of came on a little bit later than normal. I didn't play under 16s Vic Metro. I didn't play in the AIS team as it was back then. But yeah, I came on as an under 18 and had a pretty solid year.
Did the Saints feel like a bit of a lifeline to you?
No, not so much a lifeline. I mean, I would have liked to have, obviously would have liked to have stayed at Collingwood. They drafted me, and you want to stick it out and give back to the team that took a punt on you. So it's just the way things fell, and I guess towards the end of that season, it sort of all started after that season. I didn't want to speak to any other clubs before the end of my second year at the Pies, just because I wanted to stay and I wanted to hopefully get a bit more of a secure contract. It was only 2 years really that we were looking for, and that sort of didn't come about till really late. And then there was some other teams that got involved and asked the question, Saints obviously being one of them. So after the season, things the ball sort of got rolling there, and I guess I grew up in the area. I grew up in Dingley, which is, like I said before, it's 5-10 minutes from Moorabbin. I grew up as a Saints supporter, so it's sort of I guess I went and toured the facilities at Seaford with and Dave Armitage was there, who I'd known previously before getting to the Saints. So it sort of just felt right at the time, and the vibe of the place, and obviously going into the club and meeting a few of the boys and stuff, it sort of felt right, and that's just the way it happened.
Did you went to Cheltenham High? Is that right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, yep.
There's a pretty solid St Kilda connection with that high school as well. Was there any interest from the club, I guess, in those early days pre-draft? And because I think St Kilda had pick 3 and then 18, 19 in that draft. Was there any discussions with the club at that point?
Yeah, there was. I think I interviewed every team. I was interviewed by every team in that draft year. And yeah, St Kilda was one of them. I guess, like obviously I didn't play. I played not many games at all in my first 2 years. I was sort of, St Kilda probably looking at the last time I played, which was under 18s footy. So yeah, I guess they're just gone back to that, and sort of they knew the attributes and the skill set I had, and they backed me in to get my body right and play footy. So yeah, there was interest. I know Jason Blake was from Cheltenham Secondary. Not sure who else, Nick.
You've made it up, haven't you, Nick? I reckon you've made it up.
I swear I haven't. Okay, made it up.
up.
I'll find it later.
So you get drafted, you go to Collingwood, you start, I guess, you're training with them as you first start walking the door. And when did you first start feeling that there was injury issues and start just basically, when did it start feeling like, oh, this isn't going to plan? Where was the first time you noticed that there was not going as well as you'd really hoped to begin with?
Yeah, so when I arrived, I was coming off a year out with hamstring surgery. So I think that the whole premise was, getting to St Kilda was on a 3-year deal. So I think we sort of felt the first year was going to be back finding my feet a little bit, because I hadn't played at all really in my first. I was coming off ultimately 2.5 years out of playing, football. So I think we'd, established that. I was in a heavy, training my body, and, a different weights program and a different running program and that sort of stuff. So we're well aware of that. My first year was horrendous. I kept doing soft tissues. It was, one after the other. And I think, I can't even remember. I played, a few development games when the development league was going around in the VFL still, I think half the time it was, I could do a Saturday session of rehab and run 13, 14 Ks with Marcus Krieger, who was a rehab coordinator. I could go play 60 minutes in the development league. So I was just, a few of those games, a few games in the VFL, and I really was just so out of touch and out of confidence and everything in my body. So I think on memory, I think we might have wrapped up the season early and just put me into a training block from then. So yeah, I think that was probably the hardest one, where it was like, but I think credit to sort of Marcus Krieger, who's a rehab coordinator, Andrew Wallace, Richard Citron, they were so good at keeping me level-headed, because I'm always in a rush. I mean, I wanted to get out and play as much as possible, but they were, realistic from the get-go. It was that year, playing any sort of, even VFL, there's one thing to get back and play, then there's get back and play and actually perform and then contribute, and then it's get a senior game, and then it's play well at senior game. So there's a lot of steps before actually getting to where we wanted to get to. So a lot of the support staff and the support systems and the coaches and stuff at St Kilda were really good that first year of keeping me level-headed. But then, I think went into the pre-season the next year. I think from memory, I think I went to Germany that year.
Oktoberfest?
Yeah, we just missed Oktoberfest. It was me and Andrew Wallace, who was the head years ago. So we flew over there to Germany to see Hans Muller-Wolfhard, who's the German
Healing Hans.
doctor. Yeah, Healing Hans, the German doctor over there that, has his techniques, and he has his physios and his chiros, and he's got a whole setup over there in Munich. So we went over there. We missed Oktoberfest by, I think it was about a week. So all the Oktoberfest setups were still there, but there was no beers to be drunk. So not that we're going over there to do that, but it was that was it. And I can't even remember what the next sort of my second year at the Saints was like. I know my third year I had surgery again. But yeah, I think I probably played 13 or 14 games in that second year, so I'm not too sure.
So it's really obviously reassuring as a fan to hear what the staff are like and how positive they are. And I watched a piece, I don't know if you guys watched, when was it, a week or two ago, Paddy McCartan talking with Gary Lyon, and he spoke obviously really well about the Swannies and what they were able to do for him, but his time at the Saints. How do the staff actually physically, brighten you up and keep you level-headed? But what can they do?
Oh, mate, like it is tough. Like sometimes, especially with the long-term injuries, mate, it's such a roller coaster. One week you might be flying and you'll be ticking the boxes, and the next week you might pull up sore or you'll be a bit down. And sometimes it's like I would have walked in some days and just not wanted to speak to anyone. And I think they're really good at, like, especially Marcus Krieger, who's the rehab coordinator. I was his best mate for 3 years. Like, I think he understood sometimes when he's got a really good grasp of when players sort of just need space and don't need to be annoyed. But then when things are going really well, really like capitalizing on those times when they are flying and, in a good space mentally, and, you can get some really good, benefits and progress out of that. But yeah, it's all about just, keeping the eye on the bigger picture. Because I've had times where I've hurt myself and I've thought that I'll never get any better. And then 4 weeks later, I'm back out on the track, I'm flying, it's a thing of the past. So it's sort of just coming back to those times, and they've reassured me, they get the graphs out and the data points out and stuff just to show, because sometimes it might not feel like you're actually improving or getting any better, but they've got the hard data and the graphs to bring out and show you that, hey, you're actually, a lot further along than what you are. It might not seem like it because you're going in such small steps, but just things like that. I mean, it's their job and that's why they're in the job. So I guess just that's what, that's how they can sort of get us through it.
So yeah, getting through and getting you up for more training and rehab and all that sort of stuff. But what are some of the lows like? I mean, you were out for a very, very long time. I mean, we're talking kind of 4 or 5 years straight, essentially, with no senior footy. And a lot of media, a lot of expectation to get back, to finally get fit and healthy. What are some of the lows like?
Yeah, it is funny, mate. Like you said before, mate, at one stage, I was the most talked about 0-game player of all time for a couple of years. But I guess at the start, you do get a little bit annoyed, but then you sort of, the more time you're in the system, you understand the media and you understand the fans and all that sort of stuff that comes into it. So, mate, like I would have deleted the social media apps off my phone and re-downloaded them a million times over over that sort of 5 or 6 years. But yeah, like the lows are bad. Like I'm a pretty upbeat sort of bloke anyway. But I mean, I think it comes back to the support systems as well, especially at the club, but then also my family as well. And my friends. Towards the end, I think it's as funny as it sounds. My best way of coping was with humor. Like me and my mates, like we'd sort of laugh about, I'd do an injury or whatever. But I think it's sort of just, I went through the path of just being so down and just being a bit of a sook sometimes it is what it is. Like I'll get back on the horse pretty quickly, especially towards the end. But yeah, that's the way I sort of dealt with it. But also, yeah, like I said, the support systems are so crucial, and just people that understand and can read your mood and that sort of stuff, and the teammates especially too. Like there was sometimes with me, mate, like there was like I said, I was always in a rush. I wanted to get back as quick as possible, but just even having the senior leaders and stuff like Gears, and I was close with Jackie Carlisle and those sort of guys who David Armitage as well. That sort of just reassured me that we're playing the long game. You don't have to come in and dominate right now, but build myself back up, especially where I was coming from off 2 or 3 years of not much, if any, football. It was always going to take a bit of time.
And thinking of fans of the club, and when it got to the point that you were getting a number of VFL games under your belt and looking like, okay, you're actually going to come into the team. You started drawing a little bit of a crowd to the VFL games, and I might have got down myself one time and had a look first. And how did you find the support of the fans getting behind you and just getting that willing you on to get into the senior team?
Yeah. Oh, mate, like I definitely felt it. Like not saying I felt it as in, frustration from the fans, but I think towards the end, especially my last year in 2018, which was my last year, I think everyone was just sort of rooting for me to get a game towards the end. Like, I think it was sort of past it was at the point where if I got on the park and contributed at AFL level, or if anything happened like that, it was going to be a bonus. And so I was almost, I think I said in an interview at the time with the Saints, like, if when I was to play, or if I was going to play, like, I'd be so happy for myself, but also like my family, mates, the fans and stuff that would send me messages on Instagram. Like, it's funny, like towards the end, like as much as I wanted to play and sort of prove it to myself, it was almost like I wanted to do it for the people that were sort of so supportive and believed in me and that sort of stuff. And I think, yeah, when I did play, those 2 games, like it's only 2, but I think it was, it was a relief, but also it was a bit of a good feel story. And as much as I would have liked to have just kept playing and played on, but that's the way it goes. Footy's brutal, but yeah, I definitely felt the support and stuff. And I did feel the frustration at times as well, but I sort of, block that stuff out.
Well, don't worry. You're talking to 3 guys who have played 2, will never play 2 games for the Saints. So congratulations on that. I'd take 2 over nothing any day of the week. And then I suppose after that, you've then got the transition period into the outside world. And funnily enough, I spoke with current St Kilda defender Callum Wilkie today on the show I do, and he spoke to me about the difficulty he finds that every Tuesday he has a work experience with an accountancy firm, and he finds it just so difficult to get up for it because you get used to the quick, paced nature of being at a footy club, whether it be in meetings, trainings, the gym, whatever it might be. He's now really struggling to find the energy to want to, go and sit down at a desk. And obviously you're in player management now. How did you find that transition? Are you still getting used to it? And yeah, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's a good call. I mean, because football was all I'd ever known since I was 18. So I never had a job before I got drafted. And like you said, you go in and footy's so fast paced. You've got, your schedule comes out every week, and, you've got to be here at this certain time, and you've got a meeting at this time, and, weights and training and everything's sort of set out for you. So sometimes you can just go through on, zombie mode, and you just go out and train, and everything's just automatic towards the end. But yeah, transitioning out. So the story about how I got into player management, sort of halfway through my last year at St Kilda in 2018, my manager, who was Paul Connors, he sort of said, mate, like if it doesn't happen, if you do get delisted, don't find another club. I'd love to have you, come work part-time, see if you like it. If you do, then, we'll put you on and, train you up and that sort of stuff. So I pretty much as soon as I finished at the Saints, I probably had a couple of weeks off. I went away with the boys to Bali on a footy trip and got back and pretty much went full-time, like straight away. I loved it. Just everything, like a bit of mentoring staff, a bit of, managing finances, just sort of living in Paul and Robbie DeRazio, who's, the other agent at Connors Sports, living in their back pocket for a year and just learning up and gaining networks and relationships and that sort of stuff with different list managers and recruiters and players and, all those key relationships that you need to have as a player agent. And then, so I've been doing that since 2018. I'm, sort of 4 years in now. I'm accredited as an agent. I'm loving it, mate. I mean, I work really closely with the younger boys, like the under 17s, under 18s boys, up until, second, third year players. So, no, I love it, mate. I mean, I've always loved footy. I'm a bit of a footy head too. So I've loved stepping straight out into it. It's something I know and sort of having the experiences that I've had as, a player. I was in the system for 5 years. I've, played AFL, played VFL, been injured, off-field stuff like, budgeting and buying a house and buying a car and, any sort of emotional, thing the players are going to go through as they journey through from under 17s to, playing AFL and beyond. I've sort of got a bit of an insight into, having experienced it myself. So I think that's a bit of a key difference that I have in the industry. But yeah, I'm absolutely loving it.
I'm sure we'll hear some more about, I guess, those experiences moving into player management and that sort of thing shortly. But just, I guess before the end of the career, how did you have to change your game? Obviously, the types of injuries that you had with hammies, as a junior, known for kind of pace and power and all that sort of stuff. How did you have to change your game following those injuries? Because it seemed like you were, when you did play those 2 games for the seniors, that you were quite a different player finally at that point. So how did you have to change that game and that, I guess, perception of who you were as a player?
Yeah, good question. I mean, it was pretty noticeable from when I was 18 to when I was, 23 playing those games. I was a completely different player. I think sort of when I started doing the hamstrings at the start, I was still trying to play because I was a pretty ballistic player. I was pretty explosive. But I guess just after having done a few, major hamstrings, my body sort of just couldn't cope with that sort of game style anymore. As much as I tried and I played like that, I just kept nicking my hammies because my body just couldn't cope. So I think I sort of, the way I explained it was when I was, 18, I was more of a, Dangerfield, shoey type of explosive player. But when I was sort of towards the end, now I'm sort of like I'm like a Tom Mitchell type of player where, I've learned to accumulate and, skill myself up in other areas. I probably, from what I'm lacking in speed, I definitely think I've improved, or I've gotten a lot better in other areas, mainly just because of how much footy I watched in the time that I wasn't playing. So my footy IQ definitely, went through the roof, and I learned how to get into positions where I could receive and get in positions to get the ball, and sometimes not have to get myself in vulnerable positions where I'd have to, defend on an 80-meter chase or something like that. Like I sort of, just became more of an accumulator. I still had glimpses of what I was. I think 0 to 20 meters, like in the contest, I'm still pretty quick, but I think any time where I'm making a really searching 100-meter sprint, I'm probably putting myself at vulnerable. And the way I saw it was, I'd rather maybe just take 20% off my speed, but also just be out of the park instead of doing a hammy and being out for another 6 weeks. So that was that towards the end. But yeah, it's a good observation. Like I was definitely a different player from when I, eventually did end up playing AFL to what I started as.
Those couple of games, it looked like you were playing some pretty good footy. Was it a surprise, I guess, for the end to come at the end of that year, having gone through all that work to get to the top level and play those games at the end of the season, it was kind of over? Because I think a lot of the fans were surprised that having gotten to that point and you got your games at the end of the season, that all of a sudden it was over. What was the body like, honestly, at that stage, and kind of did it come as a surprise?
Oh, mate, I probably knew I was 50-50. But yeah, it is a bit, it was a little bit shattering because, like you said, I did get my body right. I felt like I'd got my body right. And like you said, I was still the player I was when I finished. That was still AFL standard. I might not have been what I was when, I was 18 or going up the system, but I think, yeah, it was funny, mate. Like, so I got that game. I got those 2 games. I got dropped for the Hawthorn game. I think they brought in Hugh Goddard and a few other tools. And then, yeah, I got knocked out in the VFL and then missed the last game. So I had a pretty good last month of my career. But yeah, and then it was over before it really even started. So yeah, it was a little bit shattering. There was a little bit of interest from other clubs when I did finish at the Saints, but I think the majority of the view was that I'd need to go back and play a full season of VFL or just show I can get through a whole season and be durable. Because that was the only thing. It was just the durability piece where, clubs sort of shied away. And I think another thing that didn't, sort of help me was, the club was going through a bit of a period of change where, Simon Lethlean comes in, James Gallagher comes in. I think Alan Richardson was probably, I think he only lasted about 6 months after, into the next season. So there was a bit of a change, and, the blokes who were out of contract, like myself, Darren Minchington, Hugh Goddard, those types of guys, Maverick Weller, I think they cleaned out quite a few of us. So it's probably bad timing as well on my behalf, but yeah, that's it, mate. Footy's brutal. I understand it. Someone like me who played 2 games in 5 years with question marks on my durability, I would have maybe liked to have gone on 1 more year just to see what I could have done with, having AFL experience going into a preseason and, being fully fit for once in my life. So that's just the way it goes.
I'll take it back to 3 moments. Give us basically the order you'd go. That's the order I'd probably like to. That's the order I'd like to relive those in the case of which one basically got you most. You got running out your first game, getting your first touch, or kicking that goal and getting everyone around you.
Probably running out for my first game. A funny story. So Dingley Footy Club, who's my local club, I think we got 50 or 60 tickets, and all the boys from the senior team, they were all up the race when we were running out, which was pretty cool. So that was good fun. I think, running out was probably I'd probably say that was number one, because then it was like I'd finally bloody done it. Like, as much as it was a relief, it was so exciting at the time. Kicking the goal second for sure. Almost kicked another snag about 10 seconds later from the next bounce, which just missed. And it's funny, like I think I had 14 and 1 goal, 1 in that second game off 50% game time. So it would have been nice if I, went on with it. That was pretty good. I think it was a pretty cheap 50-meter penalty I got. Rowan Marshall kicked me the ball inside, got taken high, and I don't know, maybe the umpire felt a bit of sympathy and let me kick my first goal, but
they're part of the story.
Yeah, part of the story. That would have been second. And then getting my first touch, I can't remember. I think my first touch was a little handball, maybe to Nathan Brown or something. I can't remember. It was in the back line. My first kick, mind you, was so bad. I think it was to Jack Stephen. It should have been a handball. It went about 5 meters over the boundary line. So that's not too memorable. It was memorable for how bad it was, to be honest.
We move on. Positives only. And I need your help, mate. I actually do need your help here. Now, I'm pretty well versed in the world of contract negotiations in the Premier League. And recently I've bought FIFA and I'm playing career mode and I'm dealing with these bloody agents, right? And they're giving me the shits. Incentives. What's your point of view on incentives for a player in the real world, but also in the gaming world? If a player comes, if a player wants to negotiate a contract and they say, if they're forward, if they're, full forward, and they say, I want, if I score 50 goals for the season, I need a cash injection. What are your thoughts? Because isn't that their job? That's their job. That's what we're paying them for in the first place.
No, it's a good question. It is their job. I think in the AFL, there's not really, you don't find too, like, I'd be hard pressed to find a contract that has, say, a goal incentives or a disposal or something like that. Incentives, more of the
Brownlow medal, something like that.
Yeah, Brownlow. Yeah, you can have Brownlow. You've got top 10 of the BNF, all Australians. Game incentives. So if you play 14, 15, 16 games, you get a bit of a bonus. But yeah, I don't think you'd find any individual statistical bonuses, to be honest.
But do you feel like it's justified to ask for that?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, 100%.
Right, okay.
100% it is. Because you want your players, if a player's on 300 grand, but they're in the, top 10 of the BNF or they're all Australian, you probably should pay them as if they're, on more. So it gives a bit of upside for the players, but also like you want your players playing as well as they can. And, you want them to be winning best and fairest and making all Australians. So it's a bit of a plus win-win for both club and player. But if the player consistently keeps hitting their incentives, then, you can get yourself into some salary cap trouble.
So tell us about the body these days. What are you doing at the moment? I know you went back and played for the Dolphins in the VFL. You spent some time with Adelaide in the Sandful. I read maybe you're back in the SFNL with Dingley now. Is that right? What are you up to these days?
Yeah, so I'm playing for Dingley in the SFNL, which is, like I said before, played all my juniors at Dingley. I've got a lot of, 80% of the teams my mates I grew up with. So, like I've had a bit of a whirlwind year. Like I did the preseason at Gold Coast. I went over to Adelaide in the Sandful, came back to Frankston. I think I just wanted to go back and play the last sort of 4 games with my mates, finish off the year. Work's been quite busy. I've, had an accreditation course I've had to do through the AFLPA this year, which was, last month. So yeah, it's a bit easy, mate. Local footy, it's, training wise and playing wise on the weekend and that sort of stuff. It's just a bit it's sort of what I needed at the moment. I'll see what happens next year and go around. But it's good being back and just playing with mates, because I think for so long I've sort of, like, even when I've been working, I've been still having one eye on getting back into the system, and almost did. But nowadays, mate, I'm fully into my work, and I'm 27 now. I won't have too much footy left in me. So I think the AFL dream's sort of finished, and now my priority's back now into work. So it sort of just goes hand in hand, and it's a bit less stressful outside of work playing at local level.
I'm not going to talk about the senior player who's taken over your number once you left and the struggles that he had. I'm talking about a young kid who might be going through a similar injury time, as similar to what you've had. What would be the biggest piece of advice you'd probably give to a player in a similar situation, just to try to get them through, just to maybe a little bit of insight to just say, this is the best way to deal with it?
Yeah, it's a good question, mate. Everyone deals with it differently. Like I did every trick in the book, mate. I got off socials. I was on socials. I watched a heap of footy. I was a footy nuffy. Then I completely went off watching footy. I'd just go to training and turn the TV off. But I think it's at the end of the day, I'm always one that wants to just try and do it myself. Like I'm pretty, I haven't got it's not from a lack of pride or whatever. Like, but I think it's the people that are around you, like they genuinely want to help you. So tapping into your family and your friends, like you're not annoying them, your teammates, your coaches, your support staff, that sort of stuff, like genuinely tap into them, because that's, like I said before, that's their job and they've seen this before. So I think that's the biggest thing. Like you're going to go through your lows and you go through your highs, but I think it's taking, not getting pissed off at people wanting to help as well. I think one of the biggest things, I was always getting so annoyed with people asking me about my hamstrings or, wanting to help or having advice and that sort of stuff, that I just get so frustrated with it all. But in the end, I was sort of like, nah, like these people actually genuinely like want to help me. So I think that's the biggest thing is speaking out, getting, talking to people and having people who you really confide in. Like I've got mates that, I'd go home from training and I'd absolutely rant and rave for half an hour, get it out of my system, and then they just sit and listen. And then to some people, you just need like that, where you can, get all your shit out of your brain that you've been thinking for weeks and weeks. But also, there's people there that generally want to help. So that'll be my piece of advice.
It's good advice. I think we can all take something out of that, even at a local level. I'm struggling to get in my five-a-side team at the moment, so that's good. Just finally, I can't believe we've gone the length of the interview without asking. A couple of decent shiners you've got there. What happened?
I do, mate. I tried to take my first contested mark ever on the weekend, and I copped one in the face. So I've learned
Never again.
I've learned I've got to stay on the ground, mate. I've got to stick to what I'm good at.
Unaccountable footy's the best type.
That's right.
That's what you got to do. Yep.
That's right. Not with my body, mate. My body's about to fall apart.
Well, H didn't want to ask the question about Dan Hannery, but is there any sort of correlation you see? I mean, it does seem some sense of karma or something for the footy club that it kind of gave you the chop at the end of 2018. Then a couple of months later, trade for Dan Hannery, who comes in and has only got a slightly better strike rate than you had at the senior level with our footy club anyway. But what's that like? I mean, do you still speak to anyone at the footy club? Have you had chats with Hannah's about his body and guys that have gone through similar things as you?
Yeah, quite a bit, actually. I was actually in at the Saints last week with Tony Brown, who's the welfare manager. I'll catch up with and speak to Marcus Krieger and the fitness staff quite a bit. I'm still really close with them, the docs and that sort of stuff. Like I was just on the text with Ian Stone, who's the club doctor, the other day. So yeah, really, really, in touch with those guys. And just the boys like, Gresh and Jack Billings and those boys that I sort of was going through, I was really close with at the club, still really close with them. But yeah, in terms of Hannah's, I know Hannah's personally. I'm mates with him. We've had a chat, especially when he was going over to Germany to see Hans. I spoke to him when he got back and just, he was really upbeat. I think he felt like it was really beneficial. And just talking to him about my experiences with, doing that and coming back and how I felt and that sort of stuff. But I mean, like who am I to, give Hannah's much advice? The bloke's a bloody champion. He's played, 200 and whatever games. He's been a finals superstar for, a long, long time. I'm just here, and like I've reached out to him when he played a couple of weeks ago, mate. We had a few DMs and a few texts and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I don't really speak to him too much about his body and what works. I think he's been doing everything he possibly can. He's fanatical and about his body and getting back. And I think footy's his, he loves just playing. So he's it's not through lack of trying Hannah's stuff. He's just got to find out what works, and hopefully, fingers crossed, he's got the answers now.
Just finally, the doco, Show Me the Money. You appeared a few times. What did you make of it? Were you nervous to watch it? How did you sort of find the whole production in the end?
Oh, it was good, mate. It was actually good fun. Like I think we had the film crew in the offices for about 2 or 3 months straight. Just literally, it was like Big Brother. They were just literally filming everything, just filming us working. We were mic'd up the whole day in the office. Yeah, mate, it was good. They were good fun. Like we had a few good storylines. Like we had Lloyd Dunstan come out of it, which was really good for him getting to Melbourne. Who else do we have? Like Adam Chera, a few of the draft boys like Nick Dacos and Tyler Sonzi and Connor McDonald, who were in the last episode. Yeah, mate, it was awesome. Like I think it was good for the average footy fan just to see the way it goes behind closed doors and just sort of the human element behind the trades. I think, you get to trade period, and as a fan, you sort of just see players moving clubs. And I think it just goes to show that the work that gets put into it, the human element behind the player's decision to leave or the player's decision to, do whatever they do. I think it's, I think it was really good. Just gives a bit more of human element to the players in the trade period.
Just quickly, just speaking about trade period, but obviously in the position that you're in now, what's the inside word on some of the big names that might be on the move in a couple of months?
I think it's going to, I was talking about it today in the office, actually. I think it's going to be a really good trade period. I think usually in past years, one of the bigger fish sort of pop up during trade period and something comes out. But I think this year there's a lot leading up to it. There's a fair few gun free agents out. There's a few players that are already getting shopped around. There's a few, I think there's some big names going to come out of it. Probably can't say too much, I guess. A lot of work's been put in behind the scenes from different clubs. And I think it's going to be a pretty exciting trade period. I think we'll just have to watch this space.
Who are some of the bigger names that are in your stable?
In terms of trading or just in general?
Oh, just that kind of being shopped around at the moment, being spoken about as potential moves or
probably the ones in the media. I mean, we've got Brodie Grundy. What happens there, we don't know. Dan McStay, the other players who are getting shopped around or wanting to leave. Yeah, not sure. They're probably the two big ones at the moment. I mean, last year we had some really good success. Like we had George Hewitt, we had Will Brodie as well. So some really good players leaving for, Will Brodie was gone from free to Fremantle, and now he's a top 3 player. He's probably going to finish top 3 in their BNF. He's been an absolute star. So I think it's probably the big names are really good, but I think some of the other names that, pop up that can become key players at other clubs, I think they're the ones that are really interesting, especially from my end.
Well, speaking of big names, I can confirm that the person that I was thinking of at Cheltenham High was the one and only Trevor Barker.
Oh,
so
there you go.
There you go. St Kilda royalty. So between you and Barks, you've got 232 games in the red, white, and black.
That's
and
right.
There aren't too many people that would have gone through too many more trials and tribulations than yourself. So thanks very much for putting on the colours and giving us your blood, sweat, and tears over a period of time. You'll always have the honour of wearing the red, white, and black, more so than any of us will. But thanks for all your efforts and thanks for coming on the show.
I appreciate it, Nick. Thanks, boys. Thanks for having me.
Nathan Freeman there. It was great to chat to Freezer about his time, mainly in red, white, and black. But you won't find too many blokes that have, I guess, spilt as much blood or muscle tissue as he has on the turf for St Kilda. Ollie,
good looking boy, isn't he? You felt intimidated.
He's hard to look at.
Yeah, it's annoying, isn't it? You just go, really?
Quick look at the game coming up. Obviously, it's another tough one. Brisbane fighting for a top 4 spot. They've got Melbourne to come next week as well in the final round. Their form's been fairly patchy, but they look like they're starting to put some good footy together to end the season. Obviously, they had a tough loss against the Tigers a couple of weeks ago, but outside of that, over the last month or 5 weeks, they've been pretty good. They're 14-6, percentage of 124. And of course, in that game in round 12, when we played them early in the year, we looked the goods up to halftime. We lost a couple of players in that second half, and they just ultimately ran out of legs and ran over the top of us in that second half. We led by a couple of goals at halftime. Things to look out for, Ollie?
Well, I think you're spot on. It's really reassuring when you look back to that game that we gave them a genuinely good hit out, when particularly if you go back then, they were Melbourne's like major challenges. Like at the time we were thinking Fremantle's a bit of a piss take. Geelong weren't really where they are now. And so to go up there and do what we did was fantastic. It obviously helps us knowing that it's under the roof, hoping for a big crowd. I'm just annoyed it's not at the MCG, because then it would have been a firm lock.
H, how do you feel about the Lions? Obviously, they've got some pretty good players in pretty good form. Their forward line obviously is pretty tough to hold out. They've got Danaher and McStay and Charlie Cameron and a few of those other blokes that are putting in some good performances.
They're one of those teams you shut down one bit and then the other one starts working. They've got lots of different ways to hurt you. So Neil's in Brownlow form. As you're saying, their forward line's kicking goals. But one player will pop up one week, the next week someone else pops up and kicks a bag. It's you can't read them, and that's the issue with coming up against them. You just don't know which player is going to fire on the weekend. So they know that next week they got a tough game, and they have to win this week. As much as we have to win, it's almost more important for them to win to get that top 4 position, because if we knock them off, they're basically dropping into the bottom 4 of the top 8. It's there goes their double chance. So it's coming up against them this time of year when that's on the line for them. You just shake your head and go, it'd be so much nicer to be able to, I know, be drawn against a West Coast or something coming up now. And it's just the unluck of the draw that Sydney have then shown up as well as being one of the best teams in the league, and that's where we're sitting. That as important for us as it is us, the 2 teams we're coming up against, it's almost bigger for them. And it's going to be one of those games where, I don't know, they kept Carlton to 1 point last week in the first quarter and kicked 5 of their own, or 4 of their own, I think it was actually 4-6. And let's just hope we don't start the same way, because I hope it's not over by quarter time, because then it'll make the weekend an even longer weekend, and it's not fun to be smashed on a Friday night.
It's selection-wise, and we're recording a little bit earlier this week than we normally do, so we're not really sure what the makeup of the team's going to look like. But it sounds like Dan McKenzie, who we touched on a bit earlier in the show, is knocking on the door for a recall and has gotten a bit of a training block in and might be right to go. Dan Hanbury, it seems like the ankle knock that he suffered last week is potentially not as bad as it could have been, and could also stay in the lineup this week. In terms of other guys to come in, obviously Nazaya is an obvious one. At home, under the roof, some room to move on the wings could be handy. Jack Bytel had a pretty good game for Sandy in the 2s last weekend. But H, how are you feeling about the squad this week?
Well, you'd think if Hannah's doesn't get up, Mackenzie's probably the straight in for him. If he's ready to go, hearing that, it sounds like he's pretty well ready to go. But it was a mystery injury when it first came along in the first place. So it's going to be interesting to see whether Hannah's is fit or not. It did see something after the match where they only showed him very quickly, but everyone's going, oh yeah, he's injured again, that sort of thing. And you saw him just talking to one of the doctors, just going, the turf shifted under his foot, and I was like, he's rolled an ankle. And so it's like, well, at least it's not the injuries he's had previously. That's an injury that anyone could do. It's just completely unlucky on the night. So if it's just a rolled ankle, I'd expect him to be there. I mean, I'll go back on my word to say that I don't agree with the rule. If he gets subbed out, I think you should be missing the next week. But if he's fit, he's going to be fit and he'll make it. So, yeah, whether we want to make wholesale changes, I'm not sure. It's changing too much. You change too much structure, and then all of a sudden you're getting smashed anyway. So it's we'll hopefully don't play around with too much, I guess, and try to keep the team we've got in there. Make sure we don't drop the kids. That's the first key, I think. And yeah, we'll see what we can do. Pick the best team for the night.
Zach Jones, obviously last week, medical sub. I'd love to see him back. A little bit of bastard, a little bit of gut, and that's one thing that I don't associate us St Kilda, teams of the good St Kilda teams, have that kind of energy. And so I'm not sure what his current situation is, but I think against Brisbane, we need a serious hard nut to get stuck in and wind them up and make some of those heavy tackles.
So Ollie, you're chairman of selectors tonight. What are the changes that you're making for this week?
Oh, mate. Well, Zach Jones is coming in. I wouldn't mind. I'm just trying to think. I wouldn't play Hanbury. I personally wouldn't, because I think I would be gutted for him if he's not 100% and he ends his career on Friday night against the Brisbane Lions. I just couldn't do it to him. I'd want to go, look, you're not playing at all. You're not going to play for the Zebs. We're going to bring you against Sydney and you're going to have the best game of your life. So that's all I care about. I don't want him to play and I want Zach Jones to come in. That's my big one.
Very nice. Well, before I let you both go, we should probably touch on some of our weekly segments. That's So St Kilda. Ollie, you mentioned the phrase on your own bat at the top of the show. So have you got a That's So St Kilda moment from this week?
Oh, that's so St Kilda. That could be a tattoo,
It could.
That's so St Kilda. Look, my gut would say that's so St Kilda. Going down to GMHBA and being the second team, 2 weeks in a row to kick the opening goal and think, here we go against the Cats, and then just rolling over. It's time and time again. Obviously, we saw the Doggies did a little better and pushed them towards the end of the second quarter and had a pretty decent lead. But that's so St Kilda to go on the road, no one give us any hope, start off really, really positively, but then that immediately be taken away from us.
H, what have you got for us?
Yeah, on a similar road there, I guess, is the have to be the whole Tim Watson being the last coach who's coached a win out there for us. It's a record we'd like to get rid of, I think.
Well, I didn't know that. Wow. Yeah, right.
I think we'd like to remove that record from the books and get someone coaching a win down there now or very soon. Just to strike that one off.
That would be nice. For me, you touched earlier, H, about the our drafting record and whatever it was, that 100+ draftees since Sam Fisher that have come through the ranks and not been named All-Australian. On the flip side, I saw a tweet from the great Sir Swamp Thing earlier today, actually yesterday it was, about opposition sides in Rising Star nomination games. And St Kilda has been the opposition for Rising Star nomination games, the most of any club in the competition. It always seems like these good young players come out and have their breakout games against us. We've had 60 Rising Star nominations against us. The next most is Melbourne with 51, and then Richmond 47, Essendon 45, which is pretty amazing. But just goes to show that, I mean, that is just so St Kilda on both sides of the drafting record.
And doesn't it feel also that we've always got Mark of the Year against us? It just, I don't know why. It just always feels like it. What do we have? Joe Danaher not long ago, Chad Wingard when he was at Port Adelaide. He had this on. Yeah, it's a bit of a stitch up.
A bit of a stitch up. Classic stitch up, as Goxie would say. But the 2 weekly awards, Ollie, for you haven't done these before, but the Jason Blake Award is someone who potentially deserves a little bit more credit than they currently get.
I like it.
What do you reckon?
Can I have a moment? Ask H.
Of course. How about H? H, you go first, and we'll throw to Ollie.
Probably go. I gave him a vote, but I'd probably go Mason Wood. It still doesn't get, I guess, the plaudits from most of our fans that he probably deserves. I think I still hear. Well, he doesn't get the praise that when he does good things, but the second he's off, he's pretty well jumped on. So, but I think he's done a lot more good than bad this year. So I think it's about time everyone gets behind him, because it's plays out bad days. He's not a superstar, and I think he just needs everyone needs to get behind him, because I think he, as I was saying before, I think he can provide a lot to us. So he's played some ripping footy on the weekend. So just keep it going.
Yeah, I think that's a great call. And trying to, when I was thinking then, I actually think he's probably the only answer. He feels like the only player that genuinely doesn't get the credit he deserves. We share the love amongst everyone else when necessary, whereas it just feels like he's a totally forgotten player. So I love when he does well. But mine is Callum Wilkie. I can't remember a player to come out of a lower league system, fit straight in, and not miss a game. Like, it's incredible how much confidence I have in that man, how relaxed I feel anytime he goes up against a big name. It is just incredible. And we do give him the respect. I think that's what I was trying to say about Mason Wood. Like, he's the kind of the only one that everyone just doesn't talk about. Whereas, we saw a couple of weeks ago, Callum Wilkie was captain. When Steely was out, we know his story. We know how impressive it is, but I still think we need to take a step back and think about how desperate we were not too long ago when we had Jakey Carlisle playing, and we're thinking, mate, we need a seriously good defender here. And we could have gone out, scrapped Hanbury's contract and spent some serious money on a really well, defined player, but we've nicked someone from an accounting firm. And I just think it's incredible.
Amazing. Yeah, both very good calls. I've gone with Mitch Owens this week, just for some of the reasons I touched on before. I think in the twos for Sandy, we've seen him play some really strong attacking football through the middle, hits a contest hard, can kick a goal, knows how to tackle, etc. But I think on this weekend, kind of sacrificing his role for the betterment of the team is a really good trait for a young bloke to show. And his job on Tom Stewart, I think, like I said earlier, didn't hit the stat sheet that many times. I think he had kind of 10 or 11 touches of the ball, but 6 tackles and that defensive pressure that we saw, keeping Tom Stewart accountable, making sure that he couldn't impact the game as much as he loves to, and Geelong love him to, was really important and was really pleasing. The Jason Blake, no, we just did the Jason Blake Award. The Shannon Knoll Award, someone who has to lift. H, do you want to go first?
This is going to be a group effort, this one. Any player who is within 20 metres of Max King when the ball comes off the boot of a player from outside 50, get on a body, make space, clear the path for Max. Make it easier for him. He's our target, but don't let him leave left in the forward line to do all by himself against a whole defensive side. Yeah, support him. Let's actually do something in the forward line. If you're within 20 metres, get in front of one of their defenders. Get a body on him. Just make a contest. 3-on-3 is a lot easier to take a mark than 3-on-1.
Yep, I totally agree. And that's where I was looking at Tim Membry for that very reason. I think he needs to lift, and in front of goal as well. He's, in his milestone game, he looked nervous, didn't he? There were some silly missed shots that we don't normally associate with Timmy Membry, and I think that he could be a little bit more physical, as what you were just touching on there, H. But I think his form in front of goals definitely needs to lift.
I agree with both of you in that regard, but I'm going back to the well with Max King. I mean, we know the talent that this bloke has. He's one of the most talented football players that we've ever seen, potentially, in this competition, and can do things that not many other players can do or could have done. H, what do you got?
I was going to say, and I was just going to add in, I don't think you've seen it, but Parko has sent in a nomination for us for tonight. I won't say it in his exact words, but he wants Brad Hill to win a contest.
We might have heard that a few times in the adder, I reckon, at games. But no, just going back to Max King, I agree with both of you that the guys around him need to help and support Max in his development. They've got to give him some room. They've got to, I guess, take some of the pressure off. They've got to pull some men off him. So you can't always have three blokes hanging off each arm, Ollie. But I think that Max has to do better in not being so static and not expecting the ball dropped on his head every single time. I think he's got to make more of an effort. And this really is an effort thing for him, I think, because we've seen that sometimes if the ball isn't delivered on a silver platter to him, that he does potentially lack the second and third efforts that other forwards can show. But I think even before that stage, putting in that effort to lead and double back and lead again and lead again, all the great forwards know how to do that. We've had a number of them at our footy club that have been amazing at leading at the ball deliverer. And we've seen at times when, whether it's Brad Hill, whether it's Nazire, at times when they kind of force him and they pull him forward towards the ball, it's unstoppable. You cannot stop him when he's moving toward the ball with arms stretched out in front. You just can't stop the bloke. And I think for him, it's just that expectation. You cannot expect the ball just dropped, at its peak height on your head, and that he's going to be able to mark it every time. I think he's got to make more of an effort, and that's where my frustration sits with Max.
Yeah, it just feels like it's the only thing lacking between him and the great man that wore number 12 before him. Rui would work and work and work, and he's a generational talent. We know that, but that feels like that is the difference right now, because even Rui had his struggle in front of goals from time to time, but he never, ever stopped trying. He was always physical. He was just had the biggest tank in the world. And you'd just like to think that Maxi just hasn't tapped into that yet. That's my hope. He just needs to figure out exactly how to do that, and then he'll be fine.
Going to that number 12, I'd be pretty confident in saying that Max King is a more talented footballer than Nick Riewoldt ever was. But Nick Riewoldt had the mentality that he was never out of a contest, that he was never beaten.
He was Tasmanian. And keep that in mind.
Yes, I'll keep that in mind. But he was never beaten. He's never going to be outworked and never gave up. And that's what he had over almost every other key forward of his generation. Ollie, thanks for joining us this week. Obviously, a big game. We hope that we can put some points on the board and really take it to the Lions. It's a huge game for us.
It's a massive one. As I said, it sucks that it's not that we don't play at the MCG, or else it would have been a pretty firm 4 points, as we know the Lions don't like going there. But it'll be great to be under the roof. Hopefully, if you're listening to this and you're thinking about going down, we just got to. We need that place to be rocking. And it's been a long time since it's felt like we have an intimidating place to go, and it feels like teams roll up no matter what our form, thinking they can just block the noise out. So it is a massive game. I'm really looking forward to it, and hopefully the fans can all show up and we can put them off their stroke.
While there's still a chance, we've got to give every shot.
First bounce. That's it. First bounce. Get there. Hit it hard. Let's actually put some, I guess, hurt on them early and make the contests. That's as simple as it is. We have to make the whole match a contest. But let's not just have these little patches again. Let's get out there and just win a game that is important. And that's as simple as it can be. The season ends if we don't turn up. And that's it. That's all we have to say to them, I think. If you don't win tonight, you're done. It's all over.
Well, as of tonight, the season is still open. A final spot is still available, as improbable as it might seem. It's still there for the taking. If we win this one, then we keep it going another week. See you on Friday night. Go Saints.